What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Western Wednesday review. And this week, I'm going to review a film that I touched on a little bit the other day in a video celebrating the career of the late Matt Clark, well-known character actor who appeared in, among other films, the Great Northfield Minnesota Raid, which is about the James Younger gang. And this film focuses in and around, specifically, the famous raid on the Northfield, Minnesota bank, which was more like an ambush and did not go well for the gang. This has been depicted in many other films, such as The Long Riders. It's a great scene in there. And other films have depicted longer parts of the story. And then you have the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which depicted the last 7 months of the life of Jesse James. So some years after these events. This was a very interesting film. By the way, I'm going to check tomorrow. My friend Kenny from Kenny's Movie Palace let me know about a little manifesto. Not manifesto is a little strong. Hamilton Book put out a little press release, I guess, about their sale, which starts tomorrow. And I'm going to be checking that out. This film is on Hamilton Book for, believe it's the Blu-ray actually, for $5.95. Very good deal. I recommend it for that price if you are a fan of Westerns or Robert Duvall or the director Philip Kaufman. This was better than I thought. I don't know what I thought. I thought it would be like, it would feel like primitive, or I don't know why. I mean, it's from 1972. I don't know. I don't know what I thought. But when I started to think about the career of Robert Duvall, and I had a video where I reviewed a live stream actually, where I reviewed his career. Sadly, he's passed away this year as well. I started to realize, man, there's some good people in this. So I definitely wanted to check it out. So hopefully I'll be picking this up soon. I actually thought I had it on a compilation or something, but I don't think so. I guess not. So yeah, this is a Philip Kaufman film. This is his third film. Philip Kaufman, the director of such films as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Wanderers, and The Right Stuff. So he had a pretty good decade or two there, the 70s and 80s. And this film has kind of motivated me to check out the rest of his filmography, to be quite honest. I've seen a few of his other films. To be honest, plot-wise, a couple of his later films don't really appeal to me. It's not something I go out of my way to watch. But I'll tell you, he does have a way of telling stories and allowing the characters to be actual characters and have conversations which appear realistic and sometimes kind of funny despite the situation. I mean, The Right Stuff had like some little interesting little bits that I don't think other directors would have included. You know, you have Jeff Goldblum and Harry Shearer having this back and forth. You know, they're almost like a somewhat comedic duo, and then Lyndon Johnson throwing a temper tantrum in the limo because John Glenn's wife, who had a stuttering problem, won't see him. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you had that little bit in the beginning where the Donald Sutherland's character is a health inspector, and he says, "I found a rat turd in your soup," and the guy's like, "It's a caper," and they have this back and forth. I don't know, he just has this way of letting the actors and the characters talk and have dialogue, which appears kind of realistic and oftentimes a little bit humorous, even if the subject matter is not so humorous. Certainly getting shot full of holes at a failed bank robbery isn't, like the funniest thing that ever happened. But when the film starts out, we see Frank and Jesse James in an outhouse, okay? They're having a conversation in an outhouse, and they did not have Charmin Extra Plus back then. They had like bits of old newspaper in there so you can, finish up with that. So Jesse James, who's played by Robert Duvall, sees that somebody wrote some notes on this newspaper about this bank. Hey, there's a bank in Northfield, Minnesota, with lots of money, the biggest bank west of the Mississippi, I guess. And it's also, and then, he also says someone wrote, like, we should wear dusters, which they famously did, to rob this bank. And they kind of attribute that to Cole Younger. It's probably Cole Younger's idea. Cole Younger, played by Cliff Robertson. He was pretty big back then. 3 Days of the Condor being one of the films that he appeared in with Redford. And so the personality clash in the film is between Jesse James and Cole Younger. Frank James at this point is pretty much on board with Jesse. Later on, they would hardly be on speaking terms. That's pretty much depicted in the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. They would sort of split later on, but Frank James in this is played by John Pierce, who only had 18 credits. He was actor from 67 to 87, but he does a good job here. And then you have the other younger brothers. Luke Askew plays one of them, and in this film, he's depicted as having some severe facial scars, like his upper lip has been destroyed by a gunshot, so he wears a handkerchief around his face. And eventually, when they go to commit the bank robbery, you can't go in already dressed like a bank robber, so he has a fake mustache. Because actually, the way they depict it in this film is they arrive in town some weeks or even months ahead of time and scout the thing out and even get to know the bank owner, and it goes into more detail. I'll get into that in a minute. And then Bob Younger is played by Matt Clark, as I discussed in my tribute to Matt Clark, who's kind of a younger, more wide-eyed brother of the three brothers. And interestingly enough, and sadly, Robert Carradine is the actor that played Bob Younger in The Long Riders. And of course, they have both passed away this year. And then you have one of the Miller brothers in this, but not Ed. Ed is not in this. Interestingly enough, he's the only Miller brother, if it's the same Ed Miller, in this film, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I'm not going to say that anymore. So I guess, but he was kind of out of the gang for a while. He's kind of screwed up at one point. He got almost kicked out. So the other Miller brother is in here. He's played by R.G. Armstrong, Clell Miller. Very well-known character actor who's appeared in many, many westerns. So that's kind of interesting. I guess he came back in their lives later, after the events of the Northfield Minnesota Raid. I don't think they depicted him in the film at all. And they have some other gang members. And essentially, this is a film where Cole Younger is kind of looking to the future. He's fascinated by machines. He has this expression, I'll say, isn't that a wonderment? They're on a train at one point. A toy salesman sits next to him and pulls out a mechanical toy, and he's like, that's a wonderment. Eventually, when they go to Northfield, Minnesota, it's a different kind of town than they're used to. It's a northern town. There's people walking around speaking Swedish. They're having a 4th of July celebration, and they're like, these guys don't even speak English. They're celebrating 4th of July. They're playing baseball. They had never seen a baseball game before. So there's a pretty long scene involving them watching the baseball game, which is almost more like, it's like tackle baseball. It's like rough stuff. The audience is like right there on the base path. And Donald Moffat plays one of the townspeople that kind of is explaining baseball to them. So it's a very different kind of town. They see a tractor of sorts, or a primitive car pulling like all this lumber, and they're just astounded by that, because they'd never seen that before. So he's like, isn't that a wonderment? And right outside of the bank is a calliope, an instrument they had back then, which is broken. So Cole Younger is constantly trying to fiddle with it. He's trying to tell the operator, hey, the spring here is broken or something. Eventually, that kind of helps to screw up their robbery. And the reason the calliope is there is the bank owner, played by Mr. Wilcox, named Mr. Wilcox, who's played by Robert Harris. I'll get to him. And I actually forgot to go back and talk about Robert Harris. I was surprised he was in this. I associated him more with the 70s. He was in a number of westerns and western shows. But I first noticed him, or realized how good of an actor he was, in the movie How to Make a Monster, which is part of sort of a trilogy with I Was a Teenage Frankenstein and I Was a Teenage Werewolf, where he plays essentially the mad scientist type character. He's a makeup man, but he was really good in that. And then I started to see him on episodes of Rawhide and everything, and I was like, oh, it's that guy. So he's very good in this as the slippery bank manager, Wilcox. He's kind of a slippery character. This bank has a reputation of being like the biggest bank and full of money, but then the townspeople are like, it's fake. That's why he has the calliope in front. He's trying to draw business. He's always trying these schemes to get people to invest money in there. So the James Younger gang comes into town in 2 waves because they split up. There's a shootout where Cole Younger is shot and he stays behind. And then eventually they meet up in town. Jesse James in this film, I don't know if any of this is accurate, he arrives after the Cole Younger part of the gang is there, and they've established themselves. They're ingratiating themselves into the townspeople. They even get jobs as payroll guards for the bank that they're going to rob. I don't know if any of this happened. Jesse James comes in and he just wants to get to it. The way he couches things is, well, the good Lord spoke to me and it's in the Bible. He basically takes credit for that plan that he saw on the newspaper that Cole Younger most likely took notes on. He says it came to him in a vision, and he has a way of like inspiring the gang. He also, of course, a lot of these guys were in Quantrill's Raiders during the Civil War, so they were doing like behind the line stuff and going on raids and executing civilians. So he couches everything in like a military operation. So when they want to go to the cat house, a couple of days before the actual bank robbery, he doesn't think that's a good idea. He's trying to keep a low profile, and they just ignore him and leave. Well, after the bank robbery gets all screwed up, he kind of reasserts himself. So that's the main character struggle in the movie. The Cole Younger, played by Cliff Robertson, and Robert Duvall, Jesse James. There's also, and the other theme of the film is, I've already mentioned this, Mr. Wilcox being like kind of a slippery guy. Nobody in here really comes off looking good. Not the law enforcement. I mean, the railroads and the Pinkertons, yeah, you can understand why they would want to get the James Younger gang. And actually what happens in Missouri, I believe it is, there's a pardon. They actually get pardoned at one point. And then you actually see someone give someone an envelope full of money, like, hey, you got to overturn that pardon. Because they're thought of as kind of like a Robin Hood type gang, and they kind of blame, the Civil War made us do these things, So there's several scenes where they kind of help out farmers and just anybody that's poor. Even when they go to Northfield, Minnesota, they become friendly with a woman who's sort of down on her luck and help her take care of her landlord who's exploiting her. So that's kind of an interesting part of it. And then after the raid, the posse, they're not perfect either. They'll just shoot up anything and anybody. They're like bloodthirsty and inept. So the gunfights in this aren't as stylized. They're like kind of more realistic. The characters are kind of more grounded. It's an interesting kind of somewhat more realistic Western, I think. The way that the robbery itself kind of unravels is just like kind of, because you're almost kind of rooting for him, but it's going to happen. It's more of a screw up than an ambush. Whereas in the Long Riders, you could see the guys in position before they even got there. Eventually, the townspeople turn out and start shooting at them. But it's more of a screw-up, and it involves a Swedish guy named Gustafsson, who's played by Royal Dano, character actor who appeared in many Westerns, who is kind of a crazy guy because his son died in the Civil War, and he comes up to them while they're trying to, commit this robbery. And then there's also something that happens with the Calliope. Apparently there was a Swedish guy that did get in their way. I don't know if it was to the point that they showed in this movie, but that's what kind of screws up the robbery. So it's just a really good character-driven Western, and it looks good. It was filmed in, I think it's called Jacksonville, Oregon. So they built some building fronts, which apparently are still there today. And it looks like a good substitute for Minnesota. Don't look too hard in the background. You might see some hills that are a little higher than they would have been, with regards to the geography that these guys were traveling in. But it is a good-looking film. And, Kaufman, like I said, he just has a way with characters and dialogue. And, my takeaways are, number one, got to see some more Philip Kaufman films. Number two, I'm very curious to watch even more movies about the James Younger gang and to read. I did read about Cole Younger. He had a very interesting life after the events that took place in the film. I didn't really read about anybody else. I don't know how accurate it is. So maybe a video at some point talking about which one of these films was more accurate. So those would sort of be my two takeaways. And if you haven't seen this, check it out. It's a different kind of a James Younger gang film than earlier depictions, I'm sure, which maybe glamorize things. So let me know what your thoughts are about the Great Northfield Minnesota Raid in the comments below, and come back again next time for some more Western Wednesday reviews. Thanks.